Oh my goodness, we're going to be seeing you here in Dexter New Blood. How did this role of Teddy come to you? Was it just an audition for you?
I called Clyde Phillips and I said, okay, first, me, Dexter. This definitely makes sense for a serial killer show, for a psychological thriller. And you're welcome. And he was like, done. Or maybe I auditioned for it and got the role. So one of those two stories is true. And all that matters is that it worked out. And I'm very, very, very glad to be a part of this really iconic show.
How was Teddy then originally described to you?
Teddy was originally described to me. A really funny thing about Teddy is when I was getting more information about him during, I think, the audition process, he was in Afghanistan and fought there. And that's all they said. And they show him as this very new, he's written as this very new cop. He's only been on the force for like 2 to 3 weeks. And so like new, like brand spanking, sparkling new. And I'm like, what's the Afghanistan thing about? And I remember asking Scott Reynolds, the head writer, and he's like, he was like in Afghanistan and probably sat at a desk job and, probably never saw the war. But so I'm like, I just like that God bless writers and that they want to give us backstory. But it was one of those moments where I'm like, there's never a mention of him being in Afghanistan. There's no like flashback he ever has. There's no like traumatic moment where like in the middle of episode 6, he's just like, wait, I'm back. I'm back in Afghanistan. So I just like that it was sort of something that was just inside Teddy all along. And maybe if you look for it, well, maybe you'll find it. And I hope you do. And let me know if you do.
It's a very small, brief bit of his backstory that that just it plays a role, but it's there, but sort of subtle in his life.
You know what? I ask myself before every scene, I always said, what would he have done while he was fighting a foreign war? And hopefully it comes out true.
You have such a unique, boisterous, bubbly personality. Is that something that you had to dim down to play Teddy?
A little bit. I mean, Teddy's very earnest, which is great. He's the low man on the totem pole in the police in a 3-person small town police force. So on some days he's all you got, and on other days, he's just happy to be along for the ride. So I got to use my normal natural earnestness in him. And while, I'm not I'm not bouncing off the walls, because the tone of the show, of course, is, dark and Dexter. At the same time, it is this very, you can even see it from the trailers. I don't know if you got to watch any of the episodes yet, but it has this very Americana feel, of that small town feel. And a guy like Teddy would exist in there, versus Miami necessarily. So it's sort of another little, Teddy taps that Midwestern feel, I think, for people. I think Teddy's like, oh yeah, I know that guy on the police force. I know that guy in my friend group. And he's just sort of happy to be there. I don't know how much he has to offer as far as wisdom or experience, but we all need a little Teddy in our lives.
Were you looking forward to sharing a scene with someone in particular going into this? I mean, obviously you're not super close with with Dexter at this point just yet.
Yes. But I definitely was looking forward to working with Michael. I've heard wonderful things about him. And he totally did not disappoint as both an actor. Getting to watch him, that man can do things with his face and his eyes and think about things in ways where you're like, oh, well, that's an Emmy Award right there. So, which I feel confident he might get one of those this time around. But he was a delight as a person too. And he's funny and he's kind. and surprising. And we talked a lot of baseball shop. I taught him a little bit about what what cryptocurrency looks like. So we had, in 6 months, we got to run the gamut of just a lot of different fun conversations and stuff. So that's kind of fun. So he's the real deal, and nothing makes me happier. I remember working with Jennifer Aniston on the morning show and was excited to work with her. And when you meet people that you've been a fan of for so long and they don't disappoint, like a Jennifer, like a Martin Short, and you not only are you like, oh wait, they were who I thought they'd be, and then some. Oh, that's just the best. I love people. I love acting and storytelling, but I really do enjoy the meeting people part of this whole Hollywood thing. And he was a pleasure.
With such an intense series, was it difficult for you to shake off a long day of filming?
It was really cold. That was really the hardest part. Sometimes things do get dark, but honestly, I think the weather just trumped everything else, especially for those first months shooting in the middle of nowhere, Massachusetts, and being, in 9-degree weather, not even like 10, not even a balmy 10. It'd be 9 degrees outside. It's freezing cold and below freezing. And you're trying to just act and do scenes and tell a story and behave like a normal human being, just standing there. And so at the end of the day, that would probably be the biggest home to just being in a bed and being like, okay, I'm okay now. I don't have to do anything outside, which gives you a lot of love, gives me a lot of love and respect for just anyone who does have to work outside in that amount of cold and that amount of extreme temperatures. And of course it got so hot. I remember being in this big poofy, snowsuit early on, and then I had to do this big poofy snowsuit scene later in the studio with like fog and just heat and everything. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, there's no such thing as being there's no such thing as shooting in 72 degrees. It's either like really, really hot or really, really cold. At least that's what it was like for us, for Dexter New Blood. But it's fun as a challenge, and it's fun to do it together. If you're doing it by yourself, but when you're doing it with everybody and you're all sharing this experience together, it's a fun thing to kind of look back on. So like we're going to the premiere in like 10 days in New York City, and it's just fun to know that you have these people that you get to share these war stories with, which is another thing I love about doing these shows. So yeah.
What do you think it is then about Dexter that really continues to make it such a fan favorite series?
I think Michael, I remember hearing, I think, a podcast of like Michael and Clyde and Scott, Clyde the showrunner and Scott the head writer, and Michael, of course, talk about it. And I've talked to them about it too. It's fun hearing from Clyde, from him directly to me, like on set one day. I'm like, how did this new season happen? How did that, and he's like, well, here's how it happened. And it's like from start to finish, you're like, wow, that's cool. And it's also amazing that it even happened at all. Like it just, it's amazing. You think like, well, yeah, it's going to happen one day. It's like, there's so many people that have to say yes to make something like this happen. So it's cool that it does. So, but to answer your question, I would say, what was your question? I forgot. I got caught up in it. Jamie, what's your question again? I'm here. I'm listening.
What do you think it is about Dexter that continues to make it such a fan favorite series?
I got so caught up in Clyde and everyone. So I think what makes Dexter so great is that it's this beautiful anti-hero who has his own thoughts, right? And you're hearing his thought process out loud, and you're seeing him think about things through. And I think we have those same thoughts too. So I think it's fun to really hear the character think. I think that more than anything else, like to really hear him think, what should I do? What do I do next? I think that inner voice out loud, I actually think that's the crux to why Dexter is so special, because we all think about doing the things that he does. We hate certain people in our lives and think bad people should be gone from this planet. And it's a struggle, and we can boil that down to should I eat that ice cream tonight? I said I'd be good, to like, I hate that person over there. It's really, I think the inner struggle is just who we are as people. And we get to see it actively out loud. It's a very special show that way, I think, more than I think anything else, more than the deaths, more than the murders, more than how wonderful he is as an actor. I think really it's, and for my peace of mind, I think it's thinking out loud.
Yes, his dichotomy, though, is a little more intense than a normal person's should I eat ice cream for dinner, before dinner.
Yeah, that wouldn't make a very good TV show. I like that I like the fact that Michael is such a good actor and that it deals with serial killers killing serial killers. It makes for a TV series. My idea isn't worthwhile.
You have such a diverse body of work yourself, though. How do you select the projects that you work on?
Well, that is a great question. I kind of like to follow the fun. Sometimes it's you just do a gig because you need to pay the bills, which, I do. But also I've been blessed to work with some really fun things, whether it be hosting a show on MTV in the streets of New York, or hosting HQ Trivia, or being on Morning Show, or doing Dexter, or this week I'm filming as I'm going to be the co-host of the new Candy Crush All-Stars tournament with Khloe Kardashian. So me and Khloe are just going to have ourselves a time with the top 10 best Candy Crush All-Stars in America. So enjoy that. So I just follow the fun. I follow a good story. I follow good people. Sometimes you get the good story and the good people, like a Dexter. Sometimes you just, sometimes you just say yes to the dress. So
what are the other projects outside of this new incredible hosting gig that you've been busy working on? I know you have your own podcast.
Yeah, I got a wonderful podcast called Fanatics, spelled FANADDICTS. And it's with Roddenberry Entertainment, the home of the Trekkie. And this is when I would do my Trekkie thing for you, but I can't. Something about my neuroscience to muscle memory does not allow me to do that. You got it, girl.
You're just going to hold your finger there. Okay.
Yeah. The Trekkie. Put some tape on it. Why didn't I tape it up before this
I can only do it with one hand. I can't do it with the other hand. So maybe you should try it with the other one.
That's true. What if the other one was just like perfect and I had never known? This whole time, my left hand was my Trekkie hand. A death grip. It's with the wonderful people who brought you the Trekkie, and because they essentially really created the first ever like fan conference, the Uber fan in the Hollywood world. It wouldn't be as wonderful as them to bring you this podcast about, well, we're fans of people, we're fans of all these wonderful celebrities, what are they fans of? So we've had on Tiffany Thiessen, who loves cookbooks, Tony Hale, who loves indoor malls, Leonard Maltin loves vintage jazz, and of course we now have on the entire Dexter cast because I've gotten to become friends with them, and we're going to drop the Dexter episodes, Fanatics, the Dexter episodes, the day after the show episode airs. So Sunday nights will be when the show airs, and then Monday morning you can listen to a recap from me right on the show, and Claire, my co-host, and then of course we're going to have on every cast member talking about what they love, and I don't want to give it away, but we got some good ones.
You're
Michael's is particularly good.
Well, listen, I can only imagine. You have music and the film projects that he gets to explore with you, I'm sure.
Yeah. Michael's got a whole. Speaking of a Renaissance man, Michael C. Hall. I think the C stands for creative. So
you're a part of social media. Are you looking forward to this fan feedback you're going to be inundated with come Dexter premiere?
Yeah, I think it'll be really great. I mean, it's already been pretty wild these last months just to be hit up by as many fake Michael C. Hall accounts as I can count, and as many Dexter fan accounts as well. Just saying like, please show this, or what does that happen, or this or that. They're actually a fairly respectful group, I'll be honest. I think just a lot of people who are just 8 seasons of this. They're just thrilled that it's back. And so I think there's just a gratitude and a graciousness, not necessarily an entitlement from the fans. I think there's an actual like, hey, we missed this. I'm so glad this is returning. Thank you. And I think that's beautiful.
What would you like to say then to everyone who are fans and supporters of the work you do, whether it's hosting, whether it's on screen yourself?
Thanks. Genuinely appreciate it. It's an honor to be able to do things like an HQ and like a Candy Crush where I actually like to interact with people, like real people. I love hanging out with wonderful actors, celebrities, people like that, but I love an audience. And so if I can make someone's day a little happier, a little brighter, a little more interesting, that gives me a full heart. So thank you.